In this gripping African folktale, twin brothers Kwame, the beloved rainmaker, and Malik, the vengeful rain stopper, are locked in a fierce battle of magic and wills. As Malik's dark powers plunge their village into a devastating drought, Kwame must confront his brother's wrath to save his people. The villagers' suffering and betrayal intensify the conflict, pushing Kwame to the brink of despair. Just when all hope seems lost, an unexpected twist reveals the true cause of Malik's hatred, leading to a dramatic and heart-wrenching climax. Will the bonds of brotherhood and the power of forgiveness prevail, or will the village remain in darkness forever? In the heart of the African savanna, nestled between towering baobab trees and sprawling grasslands, lay the village of Kwetu. Here, twin brothers Kwame and Malik were born under the watchful eye of the spirits. From the moment they entered the world, it was clear they were destined for greatness. Kwame possessed the rare gift of rainmaking. His laughter could summon torrents from the heavens to quench the thirsty earth. The villagers hailed him as a hero, their protector in times of drought and famine. In contrast, Malik was born with a darker gift as the rain stopper, the ability to halt the rain with a mere thought. While Kwame was adored by all, Malik was shunned and cast aside, his powers feared as a harbinger of doom. Their father, Babatunde, a respected elder of the village, favored Kwame above all else. He groomed him to inherit the family legacy, teaching him the ancient rituals and incantations passed down through generations. Malik, on the other hand, was ignored and belittled by his father, who saw him as nothing more than a burden. Forbidden from learning the sacred arts of rainmaking, Malik's dreams of acceptance and recognition were crushed beneath his father's indifference. As the years passed, the resentment between the brothers grew like a poisonous vine, twisting and entangling their hearts in a web of envy and bitterness. Thus, in the village of Kwetu, the stage was set for a tale of betrayal and redemption, of brothers torn apart by the very gifts that bound them together. As the years went by, the bond between Kwame and Malik soured like milk left in the sun. Their childhood laughter turned to bitter words, their playful spats evolving into all-out war. Each day, the chasm between them widened, fueled by jealousy, resentment, and the twisted machinations of fate. Kwame, buoyed by the adoration of the villagers and the favor of his father, reveled in his powers, his laughter echoing through the streets as he danced with the clouds. But beneath his facade of confidence lay a seed of doubt, a gnawing fear that his brother's darkness would one day consume them all. Meanwhile, Malik, scorned and rejected by his family and village, retreated into the shadows, nursing his hatred like a venomous snake. With each passing day, his powers grew stronger, fueled by his rage and the whispers of dark spirits that haunted his dreams. As weeks turned into months, the rivalry between Kwame and Malik reached a fever pitch. Malik's heart had become a crucible of pure hatred, fueled by the rejection of his family and the scorn of his village. With each passing day, his powers grew darker, his thirst for revenge insatiable. One fateful night, as the moon hung low and the stars whispered secrets to the wind, Malik summoned forth the darkest spirits of the underworld. With a voice like thunder and eyes ablaze with malevolence, he made a pact that would seal the village's fate. In exchange for his soul, Malik was granted powers beyond imagination, powers to bend the very fabric of reality to his will, to unleash devastation upon his enemies without mercy. With a triumphant roar, he set forth to unleash his wrath upon the unsuspecting village of Kwetu. With a wave of his hand and a whispered incantation, Malik plunged the village into darkness. The skies, once clear and blue, now roiled with clouds of blackest night, obscuring the sun and plunging the land into eternal twilight. Malik stopped the rain, the crops withered and died, the rivers ran dry, and the people of Kwetu cried out in despair as their world crumbled around them. But Malik's heart remained unmoved, his soul consumed by a darkness too deep to fathom. And so, as the village of Kwetu descended into chaos and despair, the true extent of Malik's evil became clear. He cared not for the suffering of his brother or his people, all that mattered was his thirst for revenge and the sweet taste of victory that lay within his grasp. Kwame was not going to stand aside and let Malik destroy the people he loved the most. With a heart filled with determination and a resolve as unyielding as steel, Kwame vowed to confront his brother and put an end to his reign of terror once and for all. And so, the stage was set for a battle of epic proportions, a battle that would shake the very foundations of the earth and determine the fate of the village of Kwetu. But who would emerge victorious, and at what cost? Malik's alliance with the dark spirits grew stronger with each passing day, his heart a blackened abyss of hatred and malice. Under the cloak of night, he communed with the shadows, striking deals with entities whose names were whispered only in the darkest corners of the world. In the depths of his cavernous lair, surrounded by flickering torches and the eerie glow of arcane sigils, Malik made offerings of blood and bone to his newfound allies. In return, they granted him visions of untold power and whispers of forbidden incantations that would unlock the full extent of his dark potential and strengthen his powers to make sure the village of Kwetu did not see a drop of rainfall. With each ritual, Malik's powers grew stronger, his control over the elements more absolute. He summoned storms of unparalleled fury, sending bolts of lightning crashing down from the heavens to ignite the earth in flames. He parched the land with waves of intense dryness, turning rivers to dust and fields to barren wastelands. The villagers of Kwetu cowered in fear as Malik's wrath descended upon them like a vengeful god. Their homes lay in ruins, their crops reduced to ash, their cries drowned out by the roar of the tempest. But even in the face of such devastation, Malik showed no mercy, his heart twisted beyond redemption by the darkness that consumed him. Amid the chaos and despair, a flicker of hope remained. Deep within the heart of the village, Kwame plotted his revenge. With each passing day, his resolve grew stronger, fueled by the memory of the villagers' suffering and the knowledge that only he could put an end to Malik's reign of terror. But the road ahead would not be easy for Kwame. Malik's powers had grown beyond anything Kwame had ever imagined, his control over the elements unmatched by any mortal man. To confront him would be to face certain death, but Kwame knew that he had no choice. For the sake of his village and his family, he would risk everything to bring his Malik to justice. And so, as the storm clouds gathered and the winds howled with fury, the stage was set for a showdown of epic proportions, a battle between brothers that would shake the very foundations of the earth. But who would emerge victorious in the end? With each passing day, Malik's descent into darkness deepened, his heart consumed by a ravenous hunger for power. He reveled in the chaos he had wrought, his laughter echoing through the streets as he unleashed his wrath upon the village of Kwetu. The skies churned with dark clouds, pregnant with the promise of destruction. Lightning crackled and thunder roared as Malik's fury rained down upon the land, his magic tearing through the very fabric of reality. The villagers of Kwetu huddled together in terror, their homes reduced to rubble, their crops laid waste by Malik's insatiable thirst for vengeance. But even in the face of such overwhelming despair, they refused to surrender to the darkness that threatened to consume them. Meanwhile, Kwame watched from the shadows, his heart heavy with sorrow and regret. He had tried to reason with his brother, to show him the error of his ways, but Malik's heart had become a fortress of darkness, impervious to reason or compassion. Kwame, with a heavy heart and a resolve as unyielding as steel, he stepped forward to confront his brother and put an end to his reign of terror once and for all. With every step he took, the ground trembled beneath his feet, the air thick with the scent of impending doom. As Kwame reached the edge of the village, he came face to face with Malik, his brother's eyes ablaze with an unholy light that sent shivers down Kwame's spine. But even in the face of such overwhelming darkness, Kwame refused to back down, his heart filled with a fire that burned brighter than the fiercest flame. With a defiant roar, the brothers clashed, their powers colliding in a spectacular display of light and shadow. Lightning danced across the sky, illuminating the battlefield with a blinding brilliance as Kwame and Malik fought tooth and nail for supremacy. Even as Kwame unleashed his most powerful spells, Malik proved to be a formidable adversary, his control over the elements unmatched by any mortal man. With each passing moment, Kwame felt his strength waning, his resolve crumbling beneath the weight of his brother's relentless assault. And yet, amid the chaos and despair, a flicker of hope remained. Deep within Kwame's heart, a spark of determination still burned bright, a beacon of light in the encroaching darkness. With every ounce of his being, he vowed to fight on, to stand against his brother's tyranny until his last breath. As the battle raged on, the fate of the village of Kwetu hung in the balance. Would Malik emerge victorious, his reign of terror unchallenged? Or would Kwame find the strength to overcome his brother's darkness and bring peace to the land once more? As Malik's powers grew stronger, Kwame found himself overpowered at every turn. With each clash, Malik's dark magic seemed to engulf him like a suffocating shadow, draining him of his strength and will to fight. Defeated and broken, Kwame retreated to the village of Kwetu, his heart heavy with despair and his mind consumed by the knowledge that he had failed to protect his people, but his troubles were only beginning. When he returned, Kwame faced a new enemy, the very people he had sworn to protect. The villagers, disillusioned and desperate, turned on Kwame, blaming him for their suffering and accusing him of abandoning them in their hour of need. The actions of the villagers added to Kwame's heartbreak, but he knew deep down they did not mean to place the blame on him. Malik watched from the shadows, satisfaction in his heart as he witnessed his brother's downfall. With a wave of his hand, he surrounded the village with a veil of darkness, sealing off all hope of escape and ensuring that no one could leave the village to seek aid or refuge. As the days turned to weeks and the weeks to months, the situation in the village grew increasingly dire. Without water or food, the villagers began to fall ill, their bodies weakened by dehydration and starvation. But even in the face of such overwhelming despair, Malik showed no mercy, his heart twisted beyond redemption by the darkness that consumed him. And so, as the village of Kwetu descended into chaos and despair, the true extent of Malik's evil became clear. He cared not for the suffering of his brother or his people. All that mattered was his thirst for revenge and the sweet taste of victory that lay within his grasp. But within the heart of the village, the flicker of hope still burned bright. Deep within Kwame's soul, a spark of determination remained, a beacon of light in the encroaching darkness. With every ounce of his being, he vowed to fight on, to stand against his brother's tyranny until his last breath. As the village of Kwetu teetered on the brink of destruction, the elders gathered in solemn council, their faces etched with lines of worry and despair. They knew that the fate of their village rested on their shoulders, and they were determined to do whatever it took to save their people from Malik's tyranny. With heavy hearts and trembling hands, the elders called upon the ancient powers of their forefathers, drawing upon the magic that flowed through their veins like a river of light. With each incantation and gesture, they poured their strength and wisdom into Kwame, their voices rising in a chorus of hope and determination. Even as they channeled their energies into Kwame, Malik watched from the shadows, his eyes ablaze with malice and contempt. With a wave of his hand, he unleashed a torrential downpour upon the village, the rain falling with such intensity that even the stoutest trees were uprooted and swept away. As the rain pounded down upon the village, Kwame felt a surge of power coursing through his veins, a strength born of the love and sacrifice of his people. With a defiant roar, he raised his arms to the heavens, his voice echoing through the storm like a thunderclap. However, the torrential downpour was so that the elders struggled to maintain their footing as the deluge threatened to overwhelm them, their voices drowned out by the roar of the storm. But even in the face of such overwhelming adversity, they refused to back down, their resolve unshakable in the face of Malik's relentless assault. As the elders continued to call upon the ancient powers of their forefather to consume Kwame and give him strength, it appeared their efforts were working. Kwame's power grew stronger, his control over the elements more absolute. He summoned winds to drive back the rain, lightning to illuminate the darkness, and thunder to shake the very foundations of the earth. As Malik watched the elders, he remained undaunted, his heart consumed by a darkness too deep to fathom. With a wicked smile, he unleashed wave after wave of fury upon the village, his laughter echoing through the streets like a death knell. With each passing moment, Malik's rage grew fiercer, his heart consumed by a darkness so deep that even the shadows dared not tread. His eyes blazed with an unholy light as he unleashed his fury upon the village of Kwetu, his laughter ringing out like the toll of a funeral bell. With a wave of his hand, he stopped the rain, the clouds parting to reveal a sky as black as night. But even as the villagers breathed a sigh of relief, Malik's voice boomed through the air like thunder, his words carrying the weight of 1,000 curses. "I curse this village," he bellowed, his voice echoing through the streets like the wail of a banshee. "May your crops wither and die, your rivers run dry, and your people suffer for all eternity." But Malik's rage knew no bounds, his heart consumed by a hatred so deep that even the fires of hell paled in comparison. With a wave of his hand, he summoned forth a plague of locusts, their chittering cries filling the air as they descended upon the village like a swarm of ravenous demons. The villagers watched in horror as the locusts devoured everything in their path, leaving naught but desolation in their wake. Their crops lay in ruins, their livestock slaughtered, their homes reduced to rubble by Malik's insatiable thirst for vengeance. Even in the face of such overwhelming despair, Kwame refused to back down. With every ounce of his being, he vowed to stand against his brother's tyranny until his last breath, his heart filled with a fire that burned brighter than the fiercest flame. As the village of Kwetu lay in ruins and the shadows closed in, the stage was set for a final showdown between brothers, a battle that would determine the fate of the village and all who dwelled within it. But who would emerge victorious in the end? The night was thick with tension as Kwame and Malik stood face to face, their eyes locked in a silent battle of wills. Around them, the air crackled with magic, the very earth trembling beneath their feet as they prepared to unleash their full power upon each other. With a wave of his hand, Malik summoned forth a tempest of darkness, the wind howling and the rain lashing against the ground with the force of 1,000 arrows. But even as the storm raged around him, Kwame stood tall, his resolve unbroken by the fury of his brother's assault. With a roar of defiance, he raised his arms to the heavens, his voice ringing out like a clarion call in the darkness. With each word he spoke, the air crackled with energy, the very earth itself trembling beneath his feet as he called upon the ancient powers of his ancestors to aid him in his hour of need. But Malik's rage knew no bounds. With a wicked smile, he unleashed wave after wave of fury upon his brother, his laughter echoing through the night like the toll of a funeral bell. But even in the face of such overwhelming adversity, Kwame refused to back down. With every ounce of his being, he summoned forth a shield of light to protect himself from his brother's onslaught, his heart filled with a fire that burned brighter than the fiercest flame. With a final roar of defiance, he raised his arms to the heavens, his voice ringing out like a clarion call in the darkness. With each word he spoke, the very earth itself trembled beneath his feet as he called upon the ancient powers of his ancestors to aid him in his hour of need. And so, as the brothers clashed in a battle of wills and magic, the fate of the village of Kwetu hung in the balance. Would Kwame emerge victorious, his people saved from Malik's tyranny? Or would Malik's darkness consume them all, leaving nothing but despair and destruction in its wake? With a wave of his hand, Malik unleashed a wave of darkness upon his brother, his words dripping with venom as he made his demands known. "Give me our father's wealth," he snarled, his voice echoing through the night like the toll of a funeral bell. "And I will release you from your suffering." Kwame stood firm against Malik's demands, the air crackled with tension, the very earth trembling beneath their feet as they faced off in a battle of wills and magic. But even as Malik's rage threatened to consume him, Kwame refused to back down, his heart consumed by a darkness so deep that even the shadows themselves dared not tread. But Kwame refused to yield to his brother's tyranny, his heart filled with a fire that burned brighter than the fiercest flame. "I will not bow to your demands," he declared, his voice ringing out like a clarion call in the darkness. "I will fight you until my last breath, and I will never surrender to your darkness." With a roar of rage, Malik raised his arms to the heavens, his voice echoing through the night like the howl of a wounded beast. With each word he spoke, the very air crackled with energy, the ground trembling beneath his feet as he summoned forth the full extent of his dark powers. But even as the darkness closed in around him, Kwame remained steadfast, his heart filled with a determination that defied all logic and reason. With every ounce of his being, he fought against his brother's curse, his mind consumed by thoughts of redemption and salvation. Seeing that his brother was unleashing for powers, Kwame ran through the thick darkness feeling defeated. Kwame arrived at the village again with no hope of helping his people. As the days turned to weeks and the weeks to months, Kwame's strength began to wane, his body weakened by the relentless assault of Malik's curse. Even the village's traditional medicine healer struggled to find a cure for his illness, his powers no match for the darkness that threatened to consume them all. And so, as Kwame lay on his deathbed, his spirit broken and his body ravaged by illness, Malik watched from the shadows, his heart filled with a satisfaction that bordered on madness. But even as he reveled in his victory, a nagging doubt tugged at the edges of his mind, a doubt that whispered of the consequences of his actions, and the darkness that lurked within his own soul. But would Malik heed the warning of his inner voice, or would he continue down the path of darkness and destruction? Only time would tell. As Kwame lay on his deathbed, his body ravaged by illness and his spirit broken by Malik's curse, the glimmer of hope appeared on the horizon, the glimmer that heralded the dawn of a new day, and the possibility of redemption for the darkest of souls. For deep within Malik's heart, a seed of doubt had taken root, a seed born of the pain and suffering that had plagued him since childhood. As he watched his brother's life slip away before his very eyes, he felt a pang of guilt tug at the edges of his conscience, a guilt born of the knowledge that his actions had brought about his brother's downfall. With each passing moment, the weight of his sins grew heavier, his heart heavy with the burden of regret. For deep down, he knew that the person he hated the most was not his brother, but their father, the man who had disowned him and cast him aside like a forgotten toy. And so, with a heavy heart and a resolve as unyielding as steel, Malik made a decision that would change the course of his destiny forever. With a wave of his hand, he unleashed a wave of healing energy upon his brother, his voice filled with a newfound determination as he channeled his powers for good. As the days turned to weeks and the weeks to months, Kwame's strength began to return, his body rejuvenated by Malik's newfound compassion. Even the village's traditional medicine healer marveled at his miraculous recovery, his powers no match for the inexplicable forces at work. But even as Kwame regained his health, Malik's heart remained heavy with the weight of his sins. For deep down, he knew that his actions had brought about his brother's suffering, and that no amount of repentance could ever undo the damage he had caused. Kwame got strong, and with his renewed health, he decided the battle must continue. Time was running out to save his village and his people. He left his village knowing that he might never return, as he had tried so many times to defeat his brother, which ended with serious consequences, but Kwame was determined. When he set eyes on his brother, he noticed a change in Malik. Kwame, ever the beacon of hope and forgiveness, saw the change in his brother. He extended a hand, a gesture of reconciliation, hoping to heal not only his own wounds but also the deep scars within Malik's soul. "Let us rebuild together," Kwame said, his voice strong and steady. "For the sake of our people, and for the sake of our own hearts." Malik, tears of remorse and relief streaming down his face, took his brother's hand. In that moment, the veil of darkness that had shrouded the village began to lift, the first rays of dawn breaking through the clouds, symbolizing a new beginning for Kwetu and its people. Kwame, even though was happy, he also had some doubt of Malik's intentions, but he was willing to forgive. And so, the brothers, united by blood and now by a shared purpose, began the arduous journey of healing and rebuilding. What were the villagers going to think about Malik's change of heart? Is it another evil plan to destroy them within, or was Malik really a changed man? The atmosphere in the courtyard of Kwame and Malik's family home was tense as Malik addressed the villagers of Kwetu. His announcement about sacrificing his powers for the greater good left them bewildered, unsure of what to make of his sudden change of heart. As Malik's words sank in, skepticism and suspicion lingered among the crowd. They had seen firsthand the depths of Malik's cruelty and deceit, and they were not easily swayed by his seemingly altruistic gestures. Kwame, too, watched his brother with a mixture of hope and caution. While part of him wanted to believe that Malik was sincere in his intentions, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than met the eye. And so, as Malik's proclamation hung in the air, the villagers grappled with conflicting emotions. They longed for the harmony and peace that Malik promised, but they also feared the consequences of placing their trust in a man whose motives remained unclear. As they dispersed from the courtyard, uncertainty lingered in the air like a thick fog. Only time would reveal the true nature of Malik's intentions, and the villagers could only hope that his newfound sense of compassion was genuine. In the days that followed Malik's proclamation, the villagers of Kwetu remained wary, unsure of what to make of their former ruler's sudden change of heart. While some were willing to give Malik the benefit of the doubt, others remained skeptical, reluctant to forgive and forget his past transgressions. But Kwame, ever the beacon of compassion and forgiveness, urged his fellow villagers to give Malik a chance at redemption. He believed in the transformative power of forgiveness, and he was determined to lead by example even in the face of uncertainty and doubt. Slowly but surely, the villagers began to soften their stance towards Malik, their hearts opening to the possibility of reconciliation and healing. They saw the sincerity in Malik's efforts to atone for his past actions, and they were moved by his genuine remorse and regret. And as they witnessed the bond between Kwame and Malik grow stronger with each passing day, the villagers realized that forgiveness was not just a gift to others, it was also a gift to themselves. By letting go of their anger and resentment, they freed themselves from the burden of the past, paving the way for a brighter and more hopeful future. In the end, the power of forgiveness transformed the village of Kwetu in ways that no one could have imagined. It healed old wounds, bridged divides, and brought the community together in a spirit of unity and compassion. And as Kwame and Malik stood side by side, leading their people with wisdom and humility, they proved that even the deepest rifts could be healed through the simple act of forgiveness. For in forgiveness, they discovered the true essence of humanity, the capacity to love, to empathize, and to heal. The village of Kwetu, though scarred by the trials it had faced, stood resilient and hopeful for a brighter future. Malik and Kwame used their gifts in a way that benefited the village for centuries.